acid rain,
bioengineering,
nuclear power,
synthetic fuels,
gasohol,
hazardous waste,
robots,
solar-powered satellites,
information technology,
weapons test bans,
undersea mining,
immunization,
cancer research,
technology transfer,
agricultural productivity.
Technology affects virtually every part of our national life, often in ways no one could have foreseen a few years ago. Congress now spends a large portion of its time dealing with complex technical issues, but maintaining a large staff of experts to advise Congress in all technical areas would be both costly and impractical. How can members of Congress get an objective review of policy affecting the use of new technology? How can they recognize the technology's potentials? How can they get timely warning about possible undesirable side effects?
Mr. Speaker.
In 1972, Congress created its Office of Technology Assessment. OTA's primary goal was to provide in-depth analysis of scientific and technological issues for House and Senate committees. The law creating OTA asked the organization to assess the physical, biological, economic, social, and political effects of new technology. This is an introduction to the Office of Technology Assessment. Members of the OTA staff will discuss how they develop, analyze, and deliver information to congressional committees.
Congress needed a place in which it could depend on careful analytical support of analysis of issues that involve both policy on the one hand and technology on the other. They also sensed that within this OTA they could get some help in being a little bit better informed about issues that are emerging that aren't yet on the congressional agenda but are likely to be there within a few years that they ought to get some head start thinking about.
The Office of Technology Assessment provides Congress a valuable shared staff. Our reports are used by both the House and the Senate and by all committees. OTA's shared staff assists members of Congress by doing major studies, through briefings to members and to committees, and by assisting in analyzing technical and scientific issues which might affect the legislative process. All of these issues will have major impacts on our nation's future and help us define the proper role for our government.
OTA's assessments must clearly explain what is known about the technical feasibility and the economic attraction of new technologies, and they must make the most precise possible statements about the potential economic, environmental, and social impacts of these technologies.
I think our most important task is to define as closely as possible what's known in a particular area, a set of things that there's no need to debate any further. These things are, as well as can be said in the present state of the art, this is what's known. These are the facts. From here, then, you can get into the value judgments and the policy debate.
I think mainly what our focus is to put problems in the context, in a context that is enables a policymaker to address complex issues in a way that's understandable and intelligible for policy purposes.
We never try to tell the Congress what bill ought to be passed or what bill shouldn't be passed. That's the role of the elected representatives, the senators and the congressmen. What we do try to tell them is a sense of what we feel are their options that they must in turn choose from, and the implications of these several options.
OTA is one of the 4 shared support staffs of Congress. The other 3 are the Congressional Research Service in the Library of Congress, the General Accounting Office, and the Congressional Budget Office.
For special projects,
because of the specialized nature of its work, OTA is structured differently from these other organizations. Unlike the others, OTA has a bipartisan congressional governing board made up of 6 senators and 6 congressmen. This board provides overall direction to OTA. It reviews all of OTA's work and approves requests for assessments and the release of reports. OTA is also advised by the Technology Assessment Advisory Council, called TAC. TAC evaluates OTA's work from a non-government perspective, and it assists in identifying future issues for assessment. This council is made up of 10 members of the public, eminent in science, technology, and education. The Comptroller General of the U.S. and the Director of the Congressional Research Service also serve on TAC.
Part of the submarine security manual where they talk about...
OTA has a full-time staff of about 130 people, 90 of them analytical and 40 providing support services. The staff is divided into 3 divisions: energy, materials, and international security, health and life sciences, and science, information, and natural resources. Within each of these 3 divisions are several individual programs.
Well, 90 professionals spread across all of technology is a silly number. We can't possibly be the fount of wisdom about technology with that few people, but we're not intended to be. We are intended to be a group of people that can bring together, draw together, broker, catalyze national wisdom, drawn in from all parts of the country, and synthesize that wisdom into a format, into words, into ideas that are appropriately set for our congressional clients to be able to receive and utilize effectively.
Each year, about 2,000 experts from universities, industry, and all levels of government help OTA do its job. OTA's ability to make effective use of people from both inside and outside the government allows it to do detailed work on a large and constantly shifting set of subjects.
You can then supplement the work of the people sitting inside of OTA with outside contractors who are asked to do a specific piece, perhaps a piece of data collection, or it may be their analysis of the set of issues from the standpoint of an expert working in a university or a think tank. And we can also have consultants who can come in for the day or by the week and work with us. So it's one of the things that makes us successful, I think, is this mix of people.
To understand the importance of this outside assistance, let's take a look at how an assessment is produced. The request for an assessment can be made by the chairman or ranking minority member of any congressional committee. OTA's congressional board or OTA's director can also ask for an assessment. This request is then evaluated by OTA and congressional staff members.
During that gestation period, we will do such things as literature searches and trying to become informed on the issue, beginning to frame the issues as we can best see them. What are the issues related to this problem that need to be studied? What is it that OTA can particularly contribute by virtue of pulling together a body of knowledge and doing analysis related to those issues?
You really have to work with staff people to gain insight into their perspective on the issues, to gain an understanding of what they see as their needs, rather than we in some arbitrary and isolated way thinking that we will, be able to predict the needs of the Congress and give them something that they will use.
A preliminary plan of work for each study is prepared by the OTA staff and approved by the director. The plan is then reviewed by an advisory panel assembled to guide each study. This advisory panel is an important part of every study. It ensures that the reports are technically accurate and that the findings are unbiased.
The advisory panel is a very broad-based body, usually 15 to 20 people, who are both experts and what you might call stakeholders, people who have a particular interest or a particular position to defend, maybe a vested interest in the outcome of a policy issue.
We're trying to get the individuals on the panel to speak as openly and forcefully as possible, not merely to the OTA staff, but with the other members of the panel, so that it isn't just a matter of getting information from the panel people to us, the OTA staff, but to be able to create a situation where the panel, during the course of the study, is, so to speak, an analog, a model of what the society in general would do if we had put out that product at that moment.
I think the fact that OTA has an advisory panel for every project affects the way we do work. One of the things that I found as a project manager and also as a staff analyst is it makes me from the very beginning think about a subject from several points of view.
Once the advisory panel is selected, they meet with the staff to review the design of the assessment.
The main purpose of the first panel meeting is to make sure the project plan has covered all the subjects, has emphasized the right ones. The panel members usually have two things to say at the first panel meeting. First is, can't possibly be done in the time frame and for the budget that you have. And the second is, why don't you cover these other 5 subjects?
For the next 4 to 6 months, the primary research and writing is completed. Some of this is done by the OTA staff, some by outside contractors or consultants. At the second advisory panel meeting, the assessment staff presents the work in progress to the panel.
The second meeting, which is generally about mid-study, is one of what I would describe as mid-course correction. We've let contracts, we've done analysis, we've gathered up work, we've made mistakes, we've done a few things right, and we're beginning to get our early returns in.
After the second panel meeting, the OTA staff assembles the data they've collected and starts to write the first draft of the study.
We look at our own sort of creation at this point and say, okay, what are the sort of the basic flaws and problems with it at this juncture, which is generally, if it's a year's project, this is generally the 6-month juncture. What do we have to do? What's the mid-course correction we have to make? Which direction do we have to go? The last panel meeting is sort of the moment of truth. That's when we have hopefully completed, and that's toward the end of the study, when we have completed a draft which we think is in suitable form, and maybe all the I's aren't dotted and the T's crossed, but it's in form that we think is satisfactory to take forward to the Technology Assessment Board. And that's when the panel reviews that draft and gives us their comments and criticisms prior to going to the board.
Now, we never ask them to approve the report. That would be too much, because it has to be OTA's report, not the advisory panel's report. What we do ask them, and we work with them until we get it, is an assurance that the report is fair, is accurate, is comprehensive, doesn't leave things out, and makes a good accounting to Congress of the nature of the issue and of the alternatives available to Congress to deal with it.
After additional external review, the report is presented to the requesting Congressional committee. It is then published and made available to the entire Congress and the public.
The main body of every one of OTA assessments is a thoroughly documented formal report, fully referenced, fully traceable, where the findings can be traced back to the assumptions and the ultimate facts.
We are going to boil down the 300 pages into about a 20-page summary, and then we'll boil down the 20-page summary into a 1-page set of conclusions, bottom lines, policy suggestions. And we expect that the 1-page is the thing that's read very widely. The 20-page is like a review article for somebody who wants to know a bit more. And then the person who's really interested or wants to see why we said certain things can go to the full report to find it out.
OTA's work does not end with the publication of the report. OTA staff members give congressional testimony and informal briefings on the findings of the assessment.
To me, the challenge is to get that report used by Congress. And I think that the role of the project director is to take the final report, make use of the relationships that the project director should have with House and Senate staff people, and go out essentially and market the report. Make that report useful by telling many people what the report contains, how it relates to immediate and longer-term interests on the Hill.
Congress obtains technical advice from hearings and conversations with experts. OTA is not a substitute for this process. OTA provides Congress with a systematic way of collecting information from experts around the country, and it ensures that the information is carefully reviewed and presented in a form useful for policy decisions.
I find that OTA's requirement to serve both houses of Congress and all political points of view is a wonderful impetus to fully understand not only one or two points of view on a subject, but all legitimate points of view. And that means that we probably have to consult much more widely than other research organizations do.
I think those of us at OTA who think that we are more successful than others, that this has come about because we have not viewed our position here as simply sitting inside OTA at a desk or at the telephone. We see our positions as also going outside, working with people, particularly on the Hill.
OTA, in my view at least, was created by a felt need for more careful thinking about the future. Not what will the future be, but how can we influence the future in a productive way through governance. It is, in a sense, then, an experiment that says, let's see if we can't devise within the legislative branch a group of folks who regularly draw on national wisdom, on the charity, as it were, of people in the private sector to come to Washington and help Congress through OTA think through complex and controversial issues. So far, I think it's working pretty well.